After printing with the Snapmaker U1 for a little over a month and a half now, I've got about 1,000 hours on the printer and tens of thousands of color swaps. Those tool heads are working just fine. I know exactly who this printer's for and who it's not. Let's get into it. I received this printer in January, and the very first print that I wanted to get on it, because I've been wanting to print this file for a year and a half, 2 years now on my P1Ss, was this Cherry Blossom Dragon out of PLA. But because of the amount of color swaps and filament waste on there, it would not be worth it at all. So that's what I did with this machine at the very first try. Something that I would suggest for new hobbyists or people that have been in the hobby for quite a while is get that Snapmaker U1 cryo plate, because that really helps with bed adhesion. And that was one of the first fails I had with this machine, was a bed adhesion failure. And it would just lift it up off the plate, and I swapped out this cryo plate, and it works fantastic. I started with PLA and transitioned from the floor of the printer to all the way up to the max Z height of the printer. I really wanted to test out the machine, and I've not had too many issues with the Z height. And the issues that I did have, I noticed in the Orca slicer, was my Z height, for some reason, it was set to higher than what the machine could go. So that was probably a user error or a pre-programmed setting error. It's since been fixed, and I've not had any issues since. And then finally, I printed with PETG, and my first experience with PETG was a little bit of lackluster, because that was my first bed adhesion problem. But I should have used the brim, and if I would have used the brim, it would have been just fine. But recently, we printed this giant octopus by Cinderwing 3D on there, and this is out of PETG, and it worked phenomenal. I could not have printed this on I could have printed this on my P1Ss, but again, that filament waste would have just been astronomical, even though it only has one area of filament swapping. Because the file is so big, it just swaps that many more times because it's taller. So PETG by Strong Hero 3D, this stuff is amazing. Try it out. You can find that in our BIQU's description, or link down in the description. A couple of things that I have learned on this machine. Definitely that cryo plate is a huge plus for me. My standard build plate has been on the wall for probably 45 days I've had it, roughly. And I haven't really gone back to it since. I flipped over my cryo plate and used the other side, but I haven't really used that. Another thing that I have noticed is that the filament feeding is a little bit clunky in comparison to my Bamboo P1Ss and all the AMS units. So it's a little bit more time consuming there, but for the amount of filament that I save on that machine, is totally worth it. All right, let's talk about where this machine struggles. This machine is going to struggle when it comes to speed in comparison to what the other machines are that are out there right now, the single tool heads. We can print super fast on our Bamboo P1Ss and basically any other machine in the studio. This machine, because it's got to swap out the 4 tool heads, it does print a little bit slower. I fully expect over the next few months, as Snapmaker refines their software profiles, that speed will increase. But right now, these prints still take a little bit of time in comparison to the similar time if it was a single color print on this machine. But for us in the studio, even that slower time is totally worth it, as this product is just totally transformed the way that we do multicolor printing. So let's talk about the ecosystem of the Snapmaker U1. So when it comes to the mobile app, it's still a little clunky. They're still developing it. We get updates all the time on it. But what I usually use it for is the time-lapse videos. It makes it really easy to get the time-lapse videos off the machine. Another point that this machine struggles is the software component. And that's a good bad problem to have, because that's fixable. That's not a hardware issue where a part has to be sent out to you and you got to replace it, or it's got to be sent back for factory recall or anything like that. Software can be fixed on the back end. And when I say software, it's just little tweaks on, I think the speed, like I mentioned earlier, can be fixed on the back end. The user interface for their mobile app is kind of clunky. You got to log in every single time that you try to go into Snapmaker app. That's a little annoying on my part, maybe not for some others. And then I don't really like using Snapmaker's version of Orca Slicer. Snorka is what it's been labeled by the community. It's just there's not very many filament profiles in there for other brands. Right now, the standard Orca slicer is what I use for this machine, and any filament profile that I have in Orca slicer, I can use with this machine. So I fully expect either Snapmaker is going to uh, update their filament profiles on standard Snapmaker Orca slicer, or they're going to completely back standard Orca slicer. That's just another drawback that this machine has. So if you're going to be a new user for this machine and you're a new hobbyist, I would strongly recommend that you learn standard version Orca Slicer. Let's talk about studio integration and workspace integration. What kind of space are you going to need for this printer? For us in the studio here, it takes up just slightly a bit more room than our P1S's to the front and a lot more room to the sides than our P1S's. Uh, it really eats up the footprint on our shelf. As you can see, our P1S's, though, they do eat some footprint up with our AMS units, so it takes up about that same amount of space because of the 4 spools and the extra space you need to be able to change them out. So these shelves are about 25 inches deep, and it takes up the full shelf space. So, but for us here in the studio at the Glorious Geeks, it is totally worth it. Now let's talk about who's going to get confused or frustrated with this machine. Any new hobbyist that hasn't experienced a single multicolor tool head and has learned the ins and outs of that machine might get a little frustrated with this machine, especially if you have to take apart any components or understanding where the filament jam may be and the extruders. So if you're a new hobbyist, just pay attention to the maintenance documentation. We also have a maintenance video we put out a little while ago on the Snapmaker. You can see that in the description up here. But it's important to keep up on the maintenance or you're going to get really frustrated because there are a lot of moving components to this machine, especially those tool heads. So if one of those breaks down due to lack of maintenance, you're going to get frustrated. I so far have not had anything break. And we did go through our first maintenance period about 15 days ago. So that's who's going to get frustrated. If you don't take care of the machine, it's not going to take care of you. All right, so let's talk about who this printer is going to be for and who it's not. We're going to start with who it's not for. It's not going to be for anybody that has a budget that's going to be under that $899 mark. That is what the price point is for Snapmaker at this current time of this filming. So that's not who this printer is going to be for. If you do have a budget for a printer like that, you're still going to be with the bamboo printers and the multicolor printers that aren't going to have those multicolor wasteless capabilities. Now let's talk about who should buy this machine. This is going to be for the hobbyist that has the budget for about $800 and above, especially if they're really into the multicolor printing aspect of it or even multi-material. We've tried with PETG. We haven't tried combining any materials yet, so we're going to get into that aspect as we get further in depth into this machine. But if you enjoy multicolor printing, this is going to be a good machine to have if you have the budget for it. Now, what I will say is don't expect this to be a speedy printer. This printer still takes a little bit more time in comparison to other multicolor printers because of those tool changing swaps. Not the actual swapping mechanism itself, but the added weight of the extra weight in the tool heads causes it to need to go a little bit slower if you still want to get those good quality prints. So now let's talk about if I would buy it again. Absolutely 110% yes. I actually wish that when the Kickstarter came out, I would have got the double unit because I would have loved to have 2 of the machines here in the studio. It has completely transformed the way that we do things here in the studio when considering multicolor prints. Anything that is going to cost a ton of filament waste, I will actually schedule it for this machine versus printing it on our P1S's now. This machine is, like I said, transformed the way that we do multicolor prints. So here's the bottom line. The Snapmaker U1 is for the multicolor hobbyist who doesn't mind sacrificing a little bit of speed for complete control and creativity over all of their multicolor prints. If you found this video useful, smash that subscribe button. Check out this video here, and until next time, be glorious.